Well, a wonderful good morning to you, Grenada, Carrick, Pretty Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. Welcome to The Point for today, the 12th day of the month of November. It's indeed another great giving you the opportunity, and we say thanks for being part of the broadcast. Our viewers, our listeners, those that's viewing us, joining us via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd or social media platforms, be it Facebook or YouTube. My guest this morning, no stranger to the network, PS within the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andall, and this morning we're here to discuss of particular interest, Child Month. Certainly you would well appreciate that traditionally on the calendar the observance is in October, but certainly PS, things being what they were, the impact of COVID-19, the adjustments and impact on the school term, adjustments had to be made, and the observance was shifted to November this month, but certainly doesn't take away from the importance of the observance, does it?
Thank you, JC, for having me. If I can say JC.
Well, that is perfectly fine.
I kind of like the ring to it.
That's fine, fine.
I just want to say, certainly it did not, and as you have alluded, that we have moved from October to November due to COVID-19 and its impact on our children. We decided, the Child Month Committee decided that November would be the month because of the low incidences of cases, and it also afforded us the opportunity to get all stakeholders on board for such an important month. And I don't know if you already mentioned, but the theme this year chosen by the committee is Children's Care and Education Matters. Let children grow, and flourish. That came out of the whole aspect of COVID-19 and the impact on our children's physical, health, and social and emotional well-being, and also their learning. It is important to care for them. We are stewards. God has given us that responsibility to take care of our children. And COVID-19 has shown that it is challenging in such a time to really hold on to that mandate perfectly. And as a Ministry of Education, we have endeavored that child care or children's care and education matters. And this month we want to highlight that with the help of stakeholders. That is why we have the schools on board, the churches on board, parents on board, and all important parties to help to celebrate with us. But not only we are in a celebratory mood, but we're also in a reflective mode, looking at the situation that befalls us due to COVID-19 and how we can trot the way forward.
And the theme that you highlighted comes from the brother team, which is Love the Child.
Love the child. And Joseph, we're not talking only about the emotional love, but we're also speaking about the agape love, which is God's love, which is really give the child what he or she needs to grow and develop. And we can't stop loving them. You're a father.
Yes.
I'm a father. And I tell you, the first day you see these children is love at first sight. And it is a commitment that we have as a nation and as parents to really love our children. Go ahead.
Now, I was saying that we cannot really underscore the importance of loving our children, and that's a conversation that goes beyond the traditional Child's Month observance. The reality is that when we look at what's happening within society, PS, it even beckons and asks the question, what has gone wrong with our society? You see acts of child molestation, sexual acts against children, violence against children, and I think the month allows us to stop and reassess, refocus our thoughts, first of all to us as parents, as to whether or not we were doing the best that we can do, notwithstanding the circumstances.
And indeed, because what we are today, you and I, is because of the love and the care we got as children. It is a reflection of how faithful our parents were to the stewardship given to them. And we cannot underscore the importance of loving. And when you love your child, you do anything possible to ensure that they have the right nurturing environment to grow. And that is what Child Month does. That is what Child Month was created for, to bring to our awareness and to remind us that we have a responsibility to take care of these children.
And even more so as we go through the ever-revolving door where you see changing and shifting values in our society, it's imperative that we as the adults, the Ministry of Education, that we impart those values that are important to us as families, as a nation, and as a people, or else we would lose them forever.
And indeed, because sometimes we say, and it's controversially, sometimes we say that there's a problem among our young people. And experts and other persons have said the problem really doesn't exist among them. It exists among us as adults.
I agree 100%. Yes.
Because they live what they see. And we have to show, it's important to show children that they're loved. It is, and the themes and the slogans during Child Month, I remember them as a kid still. Being me is great.
Being me is special. I'm special. Love me, I'm special.
Love me, I'm special. Daddy, love me.
Yes.
Mommy, give me all the care. Those things, I remember there were long marches from the school to the playing ground, and it stays with me. A lot of us as adults have never heard these things at home. I love you, that you're special, that you can do all that you set your mind to do. You have the capacity to do that. And Child Month is really bringing to the fore and saying to all of us that these gems in front of us should be cared for. It is unfortunate that our children have to go through these abuses. And COVID-19 has highlighted it. Because some children had an escape. The school, the community,
Correct.
The church. Now they're in there with no escape. And it is important as society that we have to break the silence. We have to break the silence.
You must.
Some of us, we are aware of the abuse. We are aware of the neglect. But we say it's not our business. We have moved away from the value of it takes a village to raise a child. And we have to get back to that place where we take care of our children and we break the silence. We become our brother's keeper. Especially, I would say, we become our children's keeper.
Because the truth is, PS, to break them now at this early age is for us as adults reducing the impact that they can have in the future. So
definitely.
I mean that go ahead.
In my previous attachment, I was attached to the Ministry of Youth, and yes. I saw exactly the impact of what bad parenthood can do to young people. We had a number of programs in the prisons, and when you speak to the young men up there as well as women, the underlying issue went back to nurturing. It went back to nurturing, and we have to stem it now. We have to deal with it now. We have to ensure that our children are cared for, that our children grow, glow, and flourish, not only by care, but by education, quality education. And when I say quality education, I'm not only speaking about academic. I'm speaking about all-round education, psychosocial, the whole aspect of being productive citizens, well-adjusted citizens, and citizens that love their country, love their fellow men, and love themselves. So it's quite important that we continue to hold on to these values.
And it's important that you highlight that, because very often we tend to focus on one element. I love my child, so I'm going to spoil my child, and we assume that is love. I'm going to love my child, so I'm going to give him the best education there is, and he or she may quite reasonably would have achieved the best education that there is. But do they have that sense of patriotism, that sense of love within them that says, you know what, while I've achieved this, let me take the education that I have and translate it into something that I can become a better citizen. So it only underscores the point that what we need to is have children that is adaptable to existing within our current construct.
And there is this saying that we have to produce children that are competitive in the global space, but not only competitive, but being global citizens. And to be global citizens underscores the love for humanity, underscores the love for self, underscores the love for community.
Right.
It is important that we not only create competitive citizens, but we create global citizens who embodies these qualities. And Child Month is really important in all of that. We have to start with the children, because as old people say, you have to bend the tree while it's young.
Yes.
You cannot wait until it gets hard that you try to bend it, because you will break it. And it is important that we continue to do that. And that is what the month looked at. Although we had scaled down activities because of COVID-19,
Yes.
there was two major focus: school-based, community-based. The school-based, what we did is that we asked the school to have school-specific activities. So most of the schools have embarked upon this. Being a parent, my child's school, they have come up with very creative ways to engage the children. So one of the activities was get the t-shirt, the burnt orange t-shirt, and do your unique design
Right.
on that. And this morning I was so impressed with her little t-shirt with a little writing and stars and sparkles. And it was not pre-produced, it was her t-shirt. And there are a number of students out there. And a matter of fact, when I walked into the ministry today, I saw a lot of orange, burnt orange. People have developed the love and the desire to celebrate their childhood, even though they are adults, to remember their childhood.
Indeed.
And maybe today I should have had on my burnt orange to signify that. But the schools have been doing work. The churches, this weekend, tomorrow, Saturday, and then Sunday would be Child Sabbath and Child Sunday on Sunday. And the churches will be focusing on the child. The messages would be child-focused. And there will be a message read in all churches, written by Ryan Chow Chong, who is the top CPE student. So that message will be read in all the churches for this weekend. So that is an activity coming up that we should focus on. We're speaking later in the month, so activities that have gone past is the address by the Governor General, which happened at the beginning of the month. We had Mr. Francis Urias Peters having an evening on Zoom with 300 students.
Nice.
And it looked at folklore and tradition. That's
critical.
We cannot forget that. Folklore and tradition.
Culture.
When we were growing up, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the television, some of us. So what we had was storytelling.
Storytelling, yes.
And Teague, and all the scary stories that you're afraid to go to your bed, but was the oral delivery of the stories, and humor. So a lot of us who are humorous and who enjoy a good humor, we got that at the home. And Mr. Peters really went back into those areas, into the archives, and really got our children to understand some of our folklore and tradition. So that was done. We also had an evening with the author, Ms. Jill Patterson, and the Grand Roy Primary School students had an evening with the author. And the children went on and they enjoyed the stories that was read. And that was a very lovely afternoon for the children.
Let me interject here, P.S. while you're here, as you made reference to the Grand Roy School, and I must say, hats off to them. I have not had the occasion, because of COVID, to see any of their material this year, but I did have the occasion. Well, no, it seemed it was yesterday. It wasn't last year for sure. Probably it was COVID. Right, so probably about 2-3 years ago, I had the occasion to cover one of the literary events that they had, and I was really, I'm telling you, totally, completely impressed with what the offering and the program that they're running up there at that school with these young children, getting them involved to enjoy the beauty of reading, writing, literacy, science, understanding and applying that which they've learned in a practical way. And as you've mentioned, it just took me back, and I want to publicly say, I know the ministry is going to do their own recognition of it, but I think that's what we need from our children, tapping into their creativity and getting them to understand, listen, there is something deep in you. If you dig deep, you can find something special that can manifest itself.
And yes, we have recognized Grand Roy. A matter of fact, the OECS, in collaboration with UNICEF, not UNICEF, sorry, USAID. There's a lot of these funding agencies, but they have worked with the Grand Roy School and other authors in Grenada to produce children's books.
Right.
So we have a book that was produced and has it has a collection of stories, short stories and poems from the Grand Roy School.
Great.
We cannot get away from the fact that in order for us to keep our cultural heritage going, in order for us to keep our identity, we have to pass that on to the children. And they are the ones that will continue that. And one thing about America is that everybody writes. They write. We are a society, we are not a reading and a writing society. But we have to break that cycle and start with the children so that they would develop a love for writing, they would develop a love for reading, and the tradition and not only what happened in the past culturally, but the modern version of Grenada can be expressed through literary work. So that is very, very important. And we thank persons like Ms. Jill Patterson and Mr. Francis Reyes Peters and other persons out there, the teachers at Grand Roy and other schools who are embarking on that for the hard work they have been putting in to ensure that we preserve our Grenadianism through literary work.
That is in fact important, because certainly what we've noticed over the years is that we've seemingly lost, because I don't necessarily think we ever lose a generation. I think what happens is that the way it is each generation expresses itself differently. So I don't ever say that we've lost a generation. What we fail to do, however, and very, very often, is to effectively translate and transfer values from one generation to another that allows for continuity and that sense of pride and heritage that somehow in some elements that we've lost. So tomorrow the weekend, Child Sabbath and Child Sunday, and I'm happy that you've incorporated made allowances for all of the different religions, based notwithstanding the different days upon which they worship.
Definitely. And the committee was very, very adamant that this must be the hallmark of this thing, that it must be a Child Sabbath, Child Sunday. I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about the whole aspect of expression. I just wanted to add this bit, that there are many economies. There are the blue economy. There are many economies out there. But one of the biggest economy right now is called the orange economy, which is the economy that deals with work, content, creation. So that things you talk about music, you talk about stories, you talk about all of these. It was identified that the Latin America and the Americas are biggest beneficiaries or the biggest creators of content out there. Unique content I have seen through TikTok and all of these Facebook and social platforms. Unique culture-specific content is making its headway there. There's a young guy in France that is one of the biggest names on the TikTok. He's a millionaire now, and all he does is sit down, look at videos, and put expressions. And that's all he does.
Right.
And he's generating wealth through this unique content. And by doing this with our children, we are creating and we are facilitating the entry into the orange economy, which indeed can be very good for Grenada. So yes, indeed, I just wanted to add that there. I wanted to also say that upcoming on the 17th, we have Miss Janelle Hamlet, Officer of the Child Protection Authority, dealing with the whole issue of helping children grow, bloom, and flourish. It will be a virtual session.
Right.
She would be speaking to parents on that matter. And also on the 30th, she would be speaking directly to parents in terms of the home, the role of the parent. And that is a very important, two important activities coming up. Also, we have the closing remark on the same 30th by the Minister of Education. And during the month, we are going to show clips through our Facebook page and so GIS of the children's work during the month.
Right.
So even though it may sound as if the activities are abbreviated somewhat, but they are having big impact. The children are feeling it and they are excited about it.
I like what I'm seeing. There was a particular school who I know is organizing what they referred to an evening child. It's a pajama. I can't remember exactly how they termed it, but it's an exercise that allows for fathers to read to their children. And I was particularly impressed that they specifically it was done to attract the fathers, because very often, when it comes to these engagements, mommy very often takes the lead, even though when it's become easy when it's on social media, it's on the internet, virtual. But when I heard about the fathers, where fathers reading to the children, prior to COVID, there was an exercise where they had, I remember I attended it with my son, it was where they invited fathers to have lunch with their children. And it was really, 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 really exciting. I mean, children were just so excited. That's my daddy. And sometimes we, even as men and peers, we fail to realize the impact that we have on our children's lives. Your child could be as skinny, daddy could be as skinny as a flex. But to that child, my daddy is the strongest daddy.
Yep.
Because for them, what they feel, what you show and feel towards you goes beyond the physical and the metaphysical. It's an impression that you make on them. And it's important, as you go through Child's Month, that men, fathers, they understand the role that they play and the impact that they have on their children's lives, not just for the today, but for the years to come.
And Joseph, I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because growing up in our communities during the 70s and the 80s, it was rare to see a father bringing a child to daycare. It was rare to see a father with a child's bag on his side and a baby trying to go into the bus to drop the child to daycare. That was a rare thing. What you saw, the guys by the road, the mothers take care of the children.
Right.
In recent time, however,
there's been a shift.
Seeing increasingly fathers are taking a more important, a more significant role in the growing up of their children. And the effect of this is very, very important. I have seen, dropping off my child, I have seen guys going to drop off their daughters or their son, and you look at them and the pants way below the bottom and so forth. But they are committed to taking care. And I think it came from the whole aspect that some of us grew up without a dad, and we felt the effect of that. Right. And when we become fathers, we say that we don't want that to happen to our children. We want to be there. Despite who I am, despite what I do, I just want to be part of the child's life. And activities like Child Month and advocacy by agencies to get fathers involved in the process indeed has helped. And there's a lot more to be done. We need to see more fathers in the PTA. We need to see both parents, because God in his wisdom didn't create one parent. He created two, because he understands fully the importance of having both parents to grow the child. But we're seeing an improvement. It's encouraging. We have to further encourage that. But man, it is important. It is important to be there in our children's life as men.
We have to take a commercial break, PS, but just before the break, I just want us to say, just want to add to it the importance of that. I remember I had the similar experience where a woman actually thought, she said she was convinced that my son didn't have a mother. He said she was convinced. I'm going to ask her why. She says, well, every day I see you taking him to the daycare. I'm like, okay. She literally offered the services, PS. She said, well, can I? You know, but this is important. And the point that you made regarding children growing up without their fathers, we also want to admonish mothers that notwithstanding whatever happens between yourself and that male figure, it should not affect. You hear parents saying to the individuals, mother saying to the child, you're just as...
Yeah.
And they use all the negative connotations that your father was this and your father was that. And it's all of those things, because very often you find where children grow up in single parent households, but the influence, that which has been imparted onto them, where a female figure has said to them that your father has no worth and no value. It diminishes them. So even from a very early age, these young men, they start thinking, well, if daddy has no value, maybe
then I have no value.
Then I have no value. I have no value also, and that in fact has to be addressed. 29 minutes past the hour, though. We take a quick commercial break. My guest this morning, PS, is within the Ministry of Education, Kevin Andall. We'll be right back, Grenada.
Stop the spread of germs that can make you and others sick. Cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. If you don't have a tissue, use your elbow. Wash hands often, especially after coughing or sneezing into a tissue.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio. The Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM 98.5, 98.7 with yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
This is a message from the Ministry of Health. If you or a family member suspect that you may have contracted COVID-19 and are displaying symptoms, please immediately self-isolate at home. This means that you must also avoid all contact with other members of your household. Do not visit hospitals or health centers, as this creates the potential for further spread of the virus, and it puts additional persons at risk when you come into contact with them. Your best course of action is to call the COVID-19 hotline at 458-4787 or 538-4787, or contact your nearest health center or medical station. Once your information has been received, health officials will come to you. Help prevent the spread of COVID-19. This has been a message from the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back to The Point, right here on GBN television and radio. My guest, Kevin Andall, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Education. P.S. I know there's so much that we can talk about when it comes to Child Month, but for the purpose of time, certainly it's a conversation that can evolve, because we want to touch on the phase one of the re-entry into classroom, just to get an assessment as to how that has been. But I just wanted to make the point that we grew up in a society, as we speak to men, that we grew up in a society where young men, they make excuse, PS, of not honoring their responsibilities to their child or children because of what they went through in their lives. You know, and my daddy wasn't there. And it's an important point that you make, because I, for one, and I say it openly, that I grew up without a father. But for me, it was my guiding light that said to me, you know what, Joe? You know what, JC? Everything that he wasn't to me, that is what I will be. And it has served as my guiding light that keeps me focused. JC, this is your responsibility. This is your, and it has nothing to do. One time I said to somebody, and it didn't quite get me. They look at me. I said, my responsibility to my child, to my son, has nothing to do with his mother. And they were like, really? And they started watching me quizzically. I said, if you think of it that way, you would then appreciate that it doesn't matter whatever happened to you and mommy, whether y'all go from the sweet romantic days to the days where y'all turn beasts with each other, your responsibility to your child, it remains. And that should serve as a guiding light. And we need to be able to, as you said, kudos to the young men, the men that is out there. We have to groom them some more, PS. That they'll pull the pants up some more, yeah? And they'll probably tuck the shirt in the pants, you know? But however, they are making some strides, and we need to acknowledge it.
One thing, I think their heart is in the right place.
And that's what's important.
Their heart is in the right place, because the reverse for me, I grew up with my dad. And I saw the sacrifices that he had to make to grow, to send us to school and to take care of us.
Right.
And I promised myself that I would be as committed to my children as my father was to us. He never neglected his role. He never shied away from what he had to do, you know. And I am what I am today because of my father and my grandmother. And we cannot take that away. The extended family structure.
Yes.
It is still important that even though we are embracing a nuclear family style of so that it's important to include the wisdom of
the old matriarchs.
The old patriarchs and the old matriarchs. So that we understand. There's no manual for parenting.
True.
Let me tell you something. There's no manual for parenting.
It's on the job learning. It's on the job learning, because every child is different. Yes.
Every child is different. I tell you, my first daughter is totally different from my second child. And if I use the manual that I used with my first child, with my second child, I would lose from the beginning.
That's an important.
So you learn on the job. You're open to learn new things. You're open to be there for them. But I know what is important is that both parents. There is a gentleman in my village that says that men don't like children, they like the ladies. I want us to break that cycle. we have to love both. So as you say, even though things turn sour,
right,
that the main focus is the health and well-being and growth and development of our children.
And you know what you have to also acknowledge, PS, is the historical components of that, where historically they've seen their role as just being the breadwinners.
Yes.
And they see breadwinning role just as being, I go out, I work, and I come back with the eat or the drink. Yes. Right. But the breadwinner, you can't just win them in terms of giving them physical things, but you are the breadwinner emotionally, psychologically. Yes, you have to win them over as well. And so we have to change that psyche so that child month should not just be just for the children, but it should also encompass us, the adults, the parents as well, as we go through this ever-revolving door.
That is why some of our activities are targeting parents.
Right.
To understand. I tell you, I can perform all the tasks in regards to my children, my two girls. Only thing I cannot plait hair. I have not acquired the skill of braiding hair. So maybe I may have to go to a school to learn how to braid hair. But it's important to get involved in these activities. Like, your children look up to you. They feel excited when you're involved, when you come to their PTAs.
Yes.
And sometimes I come to a PTA, see my daughter, I light up. Look at my daddy, look at my daddy.
Oh, yes.
And, I drop them off. And when I come to collect them in the afternoon, there is an effect on the child and the psyche of the child when we do that.
Memories that last forever.
Yes, and we can't shy away from that responsibility. And I just want to add this, Joseph, in this difficult time of COVID-19, a lot of parents are seriously challenged. They are challenged with balancing between making a bread, making the dollar,
Yeah.
the remote learning. There is a challenge there, and all the other things that are bombarding them from all sides. And there are times when the frustration can be very, very high. I just want to admonish that please don't take it out on the children, because they are children, and they will be children and behave like children. We have to find a space whereby we can get a breather, whereby we can reflect, and whereby we can distress, so that we can deal with the different challenges. Those of us that can depend on our spiritual foundations, we do that. Those who have other means of detoxing and so forth, we should do that. I just want to encourage the teachers, the parents, the students, that this period is a very challenging period
Yes.
for each and every one of us.
And what's going to happen? I see this as a transition point in families, society, Grenada. Transition, as I said to speaking to Dr. Pancho, as I've done at different times. I think the challenge going forward, PS, will be less about the economy, because the economy is going to have its own challenges. Yeah, we're going to worry about what we'll eat, what we'll drink, what school has said my child or children too. That's the everyday question. What I think needs to happen, and it was part of that conversation that led to the ministry making a decisive determination that we have to return to the classroom. It's the mental fortitude, the mental psyche of our nation's children. I think, PS, and you probably respond to that, if we lose them, and we've started in some ways to have lost some, but I think it cannot continue, and it was an important decision that the ministry made. Listen, we need to find a way to get back into the classroom so that we can have some form of face-to-face learning coupled with online sessions. How has that re-entry, that transition, that phase re-entry, how has that been, PS?
As you said, it was a very bold decision. It was a decision made through a lot of consultation. We did not make this decision lightly. We had consultation with the unions, we had consultation with parents, we had consultation all over. And the common denominator was that we cannot afford to lose this generation. And that is why we decided that this phase re-entry into school must happen. It has its challenges, but what I can say overall, it was a success. The targeted constituents were reached. They came, instructions were delivered, and yes, teachers had some challenges. We had some challenges in a number of areas, but all in all, the overwhelming reception from parents as well as students as well as teachers was that we have to do this. It would be a challenge, there will be complexities, but I think that we are resolute in our approach, that our approach to this is learn as we go.
Right.
Under the guidance of the science, the Ministry of Health, under the guidance of the stakeholders, as they give feedback into how this thing is rolling out. And that is why, Joseph, we have to keep in mind that since it has been a while since our children has gotten full engagement. Nothing cannot replace face-to-face engagement. Nothing cannot replace that. Remote, yes, it works. It has its place. It is doing well with the situation that is before us. But the face-to-face interaction, look at your child when you say, we're going to return to school.
The socialization, that element of it.
Socialization, the interacting with the teacher being able to give direct supervision and assistance and scaffolding to that child in real time. That the remote learning, yes, can help that, and it has been useful, and it has been used all over the world, and it is approved by many partners, but the blended approach is the way forward.
Do you think PS?
Blended approach of face-to-face and remote.
Do you think PS that we've highlighted the fact that, and we knew that transition, that there were going to be challenges to it. That's just life as it is. But do you think that there were a lot of individuals within the system that were more focused on the challenges, the threats, than instead of focusing on the opportunities that are available to us in this new dispensation?
In everything, you have different types of people with different outlook. So you may present a cake to somebody and they say, wow, I'm going to have a good time. And the next person might say, that may raise my diabetes. Different viewpoints coming from different people. Some people did focus on the challenges and allow the challenges to be a block to recognize the opportunities. Let me just show you some opportunities that COVID-19 has presented to us, despite all the challenges. COVID-19 has allowed us as an education system. We have looked at e-learning for a while, but COVID-19 accelerated the e-learning. For me, I was passing by a village and I saw 2 children in the veranda in a small house with their tablets doing their classes. Where would that have happened? Where you have 20-something thousand plus students in Grenada being able to access learning through remote means. That is an opportunity. Also an opportunity is that on Sunday we launch the Grenadian ebooks for primary grades. It's a book that was vetted by Grenadians. The scope and sequence was developed by Grenadians, Grenadian expert, and this provides an opportunity for teachers to teach their children despite the condition, despite the surrounding condition, that the child would be able to receive instruction through e-learning means, but also using a book that is tailored to the Grenadian child.
Right.
That is an opportunity. The opportunity also presents that more parents are more involved in the education of their children and see the challenges teachers face every day to teach their children now more than ever. And I'm telling you, a lot of parents are aggressive about it. They are aggressive about being more involved in the education of their children because COVID-19 has shown them that parental involvement in education is one of the key factors to success. And
that's what makes the difference between success and failure. The child that would at the end of the day have 10, 12 CXC with CPA results, they top the CPA, or they may have really, really great CXC results. At the end of the day, education, because for too long we've assumed that my role is to dress my child, send them off to the teachers, and let the teacher impart all the knowledge. If my child succeeds or fails, it's because the teacher failed, and not recognizing that it must be a symbiotic, a joint venture where the teacher plays their part, and you as a parent, you also have to be committed to it.
Yes, and JC, it also showed us that as a ministry, we have to relook a number of areas in education.
What was one of those areas?
Yes, and some of those areas is really investment in leadership, investment in school leadership. And not leadership at the principal level alone I'm talking about, but on the different levels of leadership within the school.
Right.
Because when you look at how schools perform, a lot rests on the culture at the school. However, the culture at the school is created by the leadership at the school. So the ministry have recognized that there is much more that we need to do in regard to the professional development of the teacher, to learn how to use the e-learning platforms, to learn how to deliver using ICT, to learn how to deliver better, to embrace assessment in a more comprehensive form, curriculum reform, and all of these things. But most importantly, all of these things we're speaking about is driven by leadership. leadership within the school, leadership within the ministry, leadership within the home. So it is important that COVID-19 has shown us that there should be an investment, a significant investment, personally and otherwise, and cooperatively, into leadership in education. And it is very, very important that this is done. It also showed us that the education system is evolving. And what we held as proper or ideal for success in a competitive world like ours has shifted. Nobody ever thought 15 years ago that mass media would be replaced in a number of ways by Facebook Live and
Correct.
Instagram and all of those things. That people will be making more money off of those platforms than even the traditional lawyers and doctors. That the field of climate change is fastly growing, that there are opportunities within those fields that people have never ever thought about exploring. So the whole aspect of what is an ideal education, what is quality education, has to be revisited in line with what the research is saying, but also with the realities on the ground.
And for quite
The ministry has recognized that.
And for quite some time now, there's been the conversation, and by both education officials and other stakeholders, as it relates to the revamping of the education system that allows one that is much more adaptable and inclusive. And for some time now, there's been that gap in terms of our children being able to embrace the opportunities that online learning offers. And as you said, COVID provided the ideal vehicle that allowed you to fast forward it at 5 years maybe?
Yes, indeed, 5 years. I may even go further to say maybe 7 years, because what we have achieved in terms of infrastructure, in terms of device, in terms of what we have is really remarkable as a nation. I think we are the only OECS territory that has such a bold and aggressive approach to e-learning. The others are there and they're growing towards that. It has been a very exciting journey. It has been a challenging journey. But in all of this, what we notice foremost is that you have to get your partners on board with you. The partners have to work with you.
Indeed.
And we have been engaging our partners much more than has been done in the past. COVID-19 has accelerated that kind of engagement. As a ministry, we have embraced that wholeheartedly. It is part of our mantra, it's part of our policy going forward, that this is what we're going to do. And
Good morning, caller. You alive?
Yeah.
Please share.
Good morning, Mr. Andall. I would like to find out something. Does the protocol still stand of the 6 feet distance in the schools, or right now people could just do what they want right now? Because the cases is going down. So I just want to find out if it still stands 6 feet distance,
Okay.
or if anybody could do what they want.
Thank you very much, caller. PS question regarding the protocols in the school: is it strictly mandated, or is it open season for everyone?
it's not open season for anyone. every correspondence we send out to the school, every public notice that we send out there, the most important thing is the health and well-being of the child. We cannot go against, the Ministry of Education cannot change protocol. We have to be compliant, and we have to adhere to the protocol. So the protocol is clear. 6 feet distancing, wearing of the mask, sanitizing. It is important. Any school or any organization affiliated with the Ministry of Education or government that is not doing that is in breach of the established protocol. And that kind of behavior should not be encouraged.
And certainly would agree, because what you want to deter in any way, form, or fashion is that sense of complacency where persons assume, well, because the curve, literally, we don't have a curve anymore. I don't even know what it is. You get mashed up. But people start thinking, you know what? It's just we have 0 cases, you know what, I could drop my guard. That could be the worst disposition that anyone could possibly adopt.
The science is clear, and we have seen it played out in a number of territories, that the countries where they dropped their guard had a number of waves. This COVID-19 is here to stay. It's here for a while. And we have to adapt. And the education system in itself is adapting that this thing is here for a while. So what we have to do is maximize the opportunities that COVID affords us. Because there are periods when we have these kind of lull. And when we have these lulls, then what we have to do is maximize the opportunity to engage our students.
Thank you, PS. It is 5 minutes on to the hour. This is as far as we can continue this conversation. I want to give it 30 seconds, a minute, just to wrap, to encapsulate what we discussed today.
I would like to ask that you participate in the Child Sabbath and Child Sunday, that you continue to care for your children and encourage them that education matters, because where we are today is because of education as individuals. So we have to enforce that. Today, there will be a public announcement given in regards to the second phase of the face-to-face integration in the schools. So the general public will be guided based on what the Ministry of Education is putting out for the next week or so for the rest of the term. So I would encourage you as parents to reach out when the announcement is made, that you reach out to your respective schools to get the direction from your respective schools into the school specific plan. Because whatever we're putting out today would be flexible in terms of it will be adapted based on the unique situation within the specific schools. I want to encourage teachers, I want to encourage the parents to support their child, support the initiatives of the Ministry of Education, that together we should work to make this happen, because our children would be the beneficiaries of this, and our children should be able to. We may have differences in many things, we may not agree with certain things and how it is done, but we need to focus on the child. We need to focus on our children and their education. The Ministry of Education is committed to the well-being, health and well-being of the students, as well as teachers and parents. We are saying that you have entrusted your children to us, and we are a responsible organization, and we would adhere to that and hold our end in regards to that mandate. Thank you, JC, for allowing me this opportunity to be here. Thank you to GBN, and it's a pleasure. And remember, every Sunday at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., webinar for parents. You've seen it behind my back.
Yes.
We are looking to encourage parents and to enlighten parents on remote learning. So thank you again, sir.
You need to update your background, though, because it makes reference to the schedule for October, though. So you need to update it for November.
Right. Definitely. Thank you for that observation.
But you did say it is every Sunday.
It is every Sunday.
Okay.
It is every Sunday ongoing. This last week we have the launch of the ebooks, but it is every Sunday. And thank you so much, everybody, for having me.
Thank you, P.S. Andall, P.S. in the Ministry of Education. Reminding you folks, we grew up with the logos and the slang. Being me is great. Love the child. And it's those impressionable years that has made us who we are, has transitioned us from children to leaders within our society. Child Month, certainly under the overarching love the child, and more so during this COVID period, we need to ensure that we as parents, whatever role that we play, directly or indirectly, but as adults, we understand the need that our children, they are our responsibility. Tomorrow, Sabbath school, Sunday school, whatever it is, let's play our part, be an active participant in change, effective change within our society. This is where we leave the conversation for now on to the point. I'm leaving you for now in studios, but we transition into 'tis the season. I'll be somewhere in the outset. Janelle is going to be in studio, and we'll be having a lot of fun. Folks, JC loves you. I'll be joining you tomorrow when I come in from 10 o'clock, and join me in television tomorrow at 11 when we do Sports Central. My guest tomorrow is going to be from We'll be talking about athletics and karate. Have a great one, Grenada. JC loves you. Enjoy the rest of the day.